come out there. Now, let's put ourselves in the place of Peter. Think about it. We all test our own faith, do we not? I know I do. We all have storms, situations where we're not so sure if God is really standing there waiting to hold out his hand to help us in those situations. And like Peter, we say, God, is that you? Okay, if it's you, then let me come out there. And if it's you, you'll help me out. We test our faith just like Peter. In doing so, are we being faithful, or are we just being afraid? So you see, Peter is in the midst of a storm. Much like us, we have storms. Now, I think no matter what time of year, thousands of years ago, or 2011, much like my history professor says, there's nothing new under the sun. People don't change. History doesn't really change all that much. Just the years, maybe the clothing, and certain other things. But there's really nothing new under the sun. Now, Peter, when he was called out to Jesus, my belief is he knew that was Jesus. He thought it was pretty cool that Jesus was out on that water. Yes, he wanted to test the faith. He was a little cocky. My belief is he was looking at the other boys in the boat going, I'm going to show them. Let's just see. I'm going to be the one walking on the water while they're sitting in the boat. And then I'm going to have something to brag about. But then, when it came to actually doing it, he gets out there. He took his eyes off of Christ and saw how big the waves were, saw how choppy it was, and looked down and said, oh crap. This isn't quite like I thought it would be. And then he had to say, Lord, help me, because I'm in over my head. Now, Jesus, on the other hand, isn't like we are, because had it been one of his other disciple buddies, they would have said, let's see you swim, brother. Right? Now, granted, I'm sure they wouldn't have let him drown, but they would have made him swim for a little bit. But Jesus said, grab my hand. I won't let you fall. So Peter's no different than we are. We're all the same. We have those same situations where we get a little cocky. We think we can control our our storms. We don't need God to handle that. We've got it under control. Until we look at the waves which are under our feet. And then we start to sink just a bit. The good thing is, Isaiah 43:2 tells us that when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. No matter what we do, no matter how much we take our eyes off of God, no matter how much we start to sink in the water, Christ is there to hold out his hand and pick us up. Isaiah 41:13 also tells us that, for I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who say to you, fear not. I am the one who helps you. He was there to help Peter. He was also there to help the other disciples. He knew what was going to happen that night on the sea. When he went up to pray and he sent them out on the sea, he knew what was going to happen. He knew what was coming on his journey yet. So it was no surprise to him, just as it was no surprise that they thought he was a ghost. Were they unfaithful? Was Peter unfaithful? Or was he merely afraid? But let's turn this story into our lives. Because while Peter was actually in the midst of a real life storm, we can also turn this storm into our lives. And no, we may not be out in a rowboat. Let's face it, we all have storms that come up in our lives. They might be financial storms. They might be relationship storms. They might be medical storms. Who knows what they are? They might even be a spiritual kind of storm. The question is, could our faith walk on water? So ask yourselves these questions. In the midst of the storm, do you seek God or do you turn from Him? Do you find yourself looking at the waves of that storm and sinking into them further and further? Or are you asking the Lord for help? Do you obey the Word? Do you get into your Bible and turn to the Scriptures? Or do you forget about the Scriptures at all?